Okay, so you want to get into open source. You find a project you're excited about, and you start looking for that magic label, good first issue. But have you ever stopped to think about what that really means? Is it just about picking an easy topic? Well, let's dive in and find out. And I mean, that is not an exaggeration at all. Seriously. From the OS on your phone to the servers powering your favorite apps, open source code is literally everywhere. It is the invisible engine that makes our digital lives possible. And that's the million-dollar question, right? These huge, super important projects, they rely on volunteers. For them to stick around and, get better, they need a constant flow of new people to jump in and lend a hand. Now, that very first step for a newcomer is usually a task labeled a good first issue, or a GFI. It's supposed to be the project's welcome mat. But what if we've been thinking about that welcome mat completely wrong? Let's break down what some new research tells us. So first, let's just talk about the conventional wisdom, what most of us assume is true about bringing new developers into the open source world. For anyone who's brand new, jumping into a big project can feel, well, pretty overwhelming. It's like staring at a giant tangled ball of yarn. But projects absolutely need new people to be brave enough to start untangling it. Figuring out how to make that first step easier is a huge deal. And that leads us right to the main tool projects use for this, the good first issue label. But what do we actually think it means? The standard definition is pretty straightforward. It's a task that the project leaders have handpicked as being perfect for a beginner. And the key assumption has always been that perfect for a beginner means the topic of the work is simple. But is that really true? Well, a team of researchers decided to put that exact assumption under the microscope. Let's get into how they tested whether a good first issue really means an easy topic. Now, they didn't mess around with small or obscure projects. They went for the giants of the Python world. AWS CDK, Six, Flask, and NumPy. I mean, look at these numbers. We're talking about projects with tens of thousands of GitHub stars and thousands of contributors. This is real-world, heavy-duty data. So how'd they do it? Their method was actually pretty clever and had 4 main steps. First, they grabbed thousands and thousands of issues. Then, they sorted them into 2 piles, a newcomer pile and an expert pile. Next, and this is the cool part, they used an algorithm to find the main topics. You can think of it like the algorithm read every issue and grouped them into themes based on which keywords kept showing up together. Finally, they just compared the themes from the newcomer pile with the themes from the expert pile. Simple as that. And what they found was, well, it was definitely not what anybody expected. This is where the whole story gets really interesting. This was it, the core question they set out to answer. After all that data crunching, what was the final verdict? Are the topics that newbies work on fundamentally different from what the seasoned pros are tackling? The answer, straight from the paper itself, was a huge, resounding no. Their exact words were, there seems to be no difference when compared to expert issues. Just let that sink in for a second. The topics are not different. And this right here just shows it so perfectly. When the researchers looked at the keywords that defined the topics for each group, the lists were almost identical. Both newcomers and experts were dealing with issues about builds, errors, imports, you name it. The subject matter was basically the same. Okay, so if the what, the actual topic, isn't the thing that separates them, then what is? What really makes a good first issue different from an expert level one? The biggest takeaway from the study is just crystal clear. Newcomers and experts are working in the same parts of the codebase on the same kinds of problems. A newcomer isn't off in a corner fixing typos while an expert is redesigning the core engine. Turns out they're often working in the same neighborhood.
So here's the crucial insight, the big idea the paper suggests. The real difference isn't the destination, it's the path you take to get there. A newcomer and an expert might both be tackling a build error, but the good first issue is the one with a much clearer, simpler path. It's a task with a way smaller scope, lower complexity, and maybe it touches less critical code.
This discovery basically gives us a whole new playbook. It's a much smarter way for both newcomers and the people running projects to think about how to get started. If you take just one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. A great first issue isn't defined by its subject. It's defined by its complexity, its scope, and how clear the instructions are. It's about how hard it is, not what it is. So, what does this mean for you? Well, if you're a newcomer, stop hunting for so-called easy topics. Instead, look for tasks that are small, super well-defined, and have crystal clear instructions. And for you maintainers out there, the message is to focus on carving out these bite-sized, clearly explained tasks. That is the real welcome mat. It's not about hiding complex topics. It's about giving people a manageable first win.
And this all leaves us with a really fascinating final question to chew on. If the true difficulty and scope are what really matter, how can we get better at measuring that? And how can we communicate it better? Solving that could be the key to building a way better on-ramp for all the developers who are going to build the future of open source.